Viewing biodiversity at the ecosystem level is a holistic way of appreciating and analyzing the natural richness of the Philippines. Taking into consideration the dynamic ecological functions and interactions of both the living and the non-living parts of the biosphere within a given location, as well as the impacts of natural phenomena and human-caused environmental changes upon them. Here in this country, topography varies to a great extent, ranging from coastal wetlands to upland region watersheds. It follows thus that the country is home to several types of ecosystems, which can be classified according to their defining features. A community is a group of species or populations that occupy a given area and interact directly or indirectly with each other. It is the collection of species occupying a place within a defined boundary. In ecology, it refers to a subset of species such as a plant, a bird, a small mammal, or a fish community. This implies relatedness or similarity among the members in their taxonomy, response to the environment, or use of resources. Species composition is the set of species present and their relative abundances. The species composition of forests depends on the annual amount of precipitation, its variability between years, its seasonal distribution, and the ratio of precipitation to potential evaporation. The index of species richness is the simplest quantitative measure of community structure. Species diversity considers both the number and relative abundance of the species within a community. Simpson's index is the probability that two individuals, randomly selected from a sample, will belong to the same species. Simpson's index of diversity is the probability that two individuals, randomly selected from a sample, will belong to different species. Dominance is a single or few species predominating a certain community. They are called dominants. The Simpson's index is also used as a measure of dominance. However, abundance is not a measure or not a sufficient indicator of dominance. Despite being superior in terms of numbers, some species are still not considered dominant. This is because small species cannot overpower the bigger species. Dominant species take advantage of other species or other resources, which is why they are considered as the dominant competitors under certain environmental conditions. Keystone species are species that have a disproportionate impact in the community relative to its abundance. Removal of these species may change the community structure and may result in loss of diversity. They can also create or modify habitats, influence interactions between other species, and can modify the community through feeding habitats. Examples of keystone species in the Philippines are the freshwater crocodile, or Crocodylus mindoroensis, and the Philippine eagle, or Phytacophaga jeffreyi. The Philippine eagle, also known as the monkey-eating eagle, or the great Philippine eagle, is an endangered species and is endemic to the forests in the Philippines. When Philippine crocodiles are still young, they act as prey for large animals such as birds. But when they are older, they act as predators of fish, shrimp, and water snails that help these species balance their population. Food webs are feeding relationships among species that can be studied to explain community structure. Meanwhile, food chains are an abstract representation, descriptive diagram of feeding habitats, and can explain the flow of food energy between species. A well-developed forest ecosystem, for example, has multiple layers of vegetation. From top to bottom, they are the canopy, the understory, the shrub layer, the herb or ground layer, and the forest floor. The upper layer, the canopy, is the primary site of energy fixation through photosynthesis. The canopy structure has a major influence on the rest of the forest. If the canopy is fairly open, considerable amount of sunlight will reach the lower layers. If ample water and nutrients are available, a well-developed understory and shrub strata will form. If the canopy is dense and closed, light levels are low, and the understory and shrub layers will be poorly developed. The nature of the herb layer depends on the soil moisture and nutrient conditions, slope position, density of the canopy, and understory, and also the exposure of the slope, all of which vary from place to place throughout the forest. The final layer, the forest floor, is where the important process of decomposition takes place, and where microbial organisms feeding on decaying organic matter release mineral nutrients for use by the forest plants. There are 4 types of terrestrial communities: forest, agricultural, marginal, and urban. Forest communities or ecosystems are inherently diverse ecosystems, as conditions found within them are ideal for supporting symbiotic ecological relationships. They also naturally provide clean air and food in the process. They function as buffer zones from storms and prevention of soil erosion. Lowland rainforests are characterized by moist broadleaf vegetation. They are dominated by the pterocarps growing up to 60 meters tall and 1 to 2 meters in diameter. They have an uneven canopy height, an understory with ratans and lianas, and have great amount of herbaceous undergrowth, epiphytic ferns, and orchids growing on the sides of branches of trees. Dominated by oak and laurel forest species. They have less undergrowth and become shorter in stature as altitude increases. They have a thick forest floor with humus, where epiphytes, vines, and moss are common. Agricultural ecosystems are artificially created in the process of developing land and coastal areas for farming, animal husbandry, and fishing. It has served as people's primary source of sustenance and livelihood. Urban ecosystems are the products of modernization and industrialization. They are basis of human settlements and economic activities. They are detrimental to the natural system. However, they are detrimental to the natural ecosystem. Examples of urban ecosystems are Metro Manila, Cebu, and Davao City. Well-stratified lakes have a surface layer of warm, while mixed with water high in oxygen, the epilimnion, a second layer, the metalimnion, which is characterized by the thermocline, and the hypolimnion, a deep, cold layer of dense water at about 4 degrees Celsius, which is often low in oxygen. 2 distinct vertical layers are also recognized based on light penetration through the water column. An upper layer, the photic layer, where the availability of light supports photosynthesis, and a deeper layer of waters, the aphotic layer, an area without light. The bottom layer of sediments, where the composition is most active, is referred to as the benthic layer. There are 3 types of aquatic communities or ecosystems: the coral reef, the freshwater, and the seagrass. Coral reef communities or ecosystem in the Philippines owns 5% of the world's total 617,000 square kilometers of coral reefs and is a part of the Coral Triangle. Verde Island in Batangas is noted to be the center of marine biodiversity in the world. Coral reef communities are natural habitats of fish species and other marine organisms. They serve as breakwaters that protect coastal areas in the Philippines from waves and storms. An example of a coral reef community is the Tubataha Reef in Sulu. Freshwater communities have low salinity water that flow from natural rainwater catch basins created by forests. They may either be flowing, standing, or man-made. They serve as a reservoir for natural water cycle and provides convenient source of water for domestic and industrial use.